Yeah, my grandma, my mom's side.
So she was pretty tall. She was almost
Yeah,
about 6 feet,
yeah,
and
she
your
was about 6 feet.
mom's dad was 5'4".
5'5",
Short
short king.
king.
Yeah, literally. Um, yeah, they had a small family, 9, of course. Um, but yeah, no, they never really moved uh away to that sense. So they've always lived in Pinal. My uncles have come and visited and whatnot. But other than that, most of my mom's side of the family resides there. I have a couple uncles who, a few of them actually. The oldest ones are the ones that are here. Um, yeah, and they come and go and whatnot, and they're also in the agricultural business, which is really funny. Um, my whole family just kind of revolves around being a
Are they
farmer.
in avocados as well?
Yeah,
Oh.
yeah. Um, yeah, the two oldest ones, they own avocado groves and stuff like that, and they do their own thing. And the two other ones, they've all kind of moved into their own niche and whatnot. So one of them is like a taquero and stuff. The other one does
Right.
landscaping for like big golf courses and stuff. I see them all the time. We always get together with them, so we're still very close. Um, yeah, family wise. So I think that's one of the huge things that my grandpa used to always, do. We used to get together at his avocado grove when he used to work here in San Pascual. My mom's side of the family,
Hmm.
because he was close to my mom's mom, so my grandma on my mom's side. So even then, like my grandma, because I was always the in between. I was the one that my grandpa would take me. So like the first time I went to Mexico by myself was with my grandpa. I was like 4 or 5 years old. My mom was like crazy at the time. Like she let me go for like 2 3 months to Mexico, and yeah, like I went to go stay with my grandma, Pablito, and my
But your grandpa took you.
my grandpa took me. Yeah, and
My
he
abuelito Genaro.
yeah, and Genaro took me, and he was just like, bueno, quítalo en cargo, and he's like, no, 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 está bien, no te preocupes, and they're like, the banter and stuff. But yeah, I remember staying there, and I was like, man, like, and I thought my grandpa was poor, but then when I went to go stay with them, I was like, man, they're really poor. Like,
It was a different.
it was
It
a
was a
di-
different.
I was like, man, like, why is their house have twigs? Like,
Mm,
but that's how they lived, and
hmm.
I remember staying with them, and they had like a little twig house, and like
Right.
that's kind of like. Then I asked my mom, and I'm like, how come you guys all sleep in like little hammocks? And it's like, oh, those are our beds. Like that's how we slept, and it's just like bunk beds and like stuff like that. And I remember like going in there one time early in the morning, and I'm just like, oh, like this is how they sleep. Like, oh, that's cool. Like, I
Mm.
want one of these when I go back home. Like, so I wanted to make one of those. Like, and I remember like my mom told my mom like, oh, I want one of those swinging beds. And it's like swinging beds. Like, what do you mean? And then like it made sense down the road to my mom's like, you wanted like the little house that we had. And I was like, yeah, yeah, that's like that was dope. And like ship beds. Um, yeah, they live very humbly and whatnot. But my grandpa, by all means, like he still, he got along with her really, really well, and they had like a beautiful chemistry till this day. Like whenever my family goes and my mom goes, like she'll bring my aunts and her cousins to the parties and stuff. Remember the last time I took my baby, Vicente, to Mexico, and yeah, crazy parent. I took him; he was 3 months old.
He
He was
was
like
young.
fresh out the womb.
Yeah.
Um,
For the birthday, right?
for my grandma's birthday in May, because I was still like on paternity leave, and then his mom was on maternity leave. So I was like,
All right,
hey,
let's go.
let's I got some time, let's go. He was like, all right, let's go, let's skedaddle. So we went, and yeah, like we stayed in Pinal, and then we went down to El Plátano, and then so forth, and then but yeah, no, it's and then he got to meet his one of his great grandchildren, which he has a lot. So there's a lot of us. I
Hmm.
know I haven't brought this up yet, but I was waiting for it. There's like 60, 70 grandchildren.
On my abuelito Genaro's.
With the Genaro
Yeah.
side. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It was like at the time there was like 16 or 17 great grandchildren. So even the grandchildren have started having children. So it's
Mm-hmm.
like, and
Great grandchildren.
he was always keeping count. He'd always tell people, he's like, oh no, I got like
60.
60. I got more than you.
Yeah.
You know, it was always a contest. Um, but no, and then the great grandchildren, he's like, no, yo tengo 16 bisnietos. Van a ser 17. And I'm like, damn, bro. Like,
Yeah, I
I can
remember
tell.
hearing him say that.
Yeah. So he's always bringing that up, you know. Whichever one of his friends went to go visit him, he's all like, oh, este es uno de mis nietos. And he'd introduce you to like 5 different people, and you're like, es pariente de no sé quién. And then he's like, es tu tío. And like, that's all I heard at the end. I'm like, oh, hola tío, ¿cómo está? So, and stuff like that. So, um, yeah, he was always happy to talk to anyone. He was always, happy to introduce you to everyone. He was always very proud of his family. I think that's one of the huge things too.
Yeah.
Very, very happy with his life and what he accomplished, and whether he was well off or whatnot. I don't think that really mattered to him to some certain extent. I think him being happy with his family. I think that's what really mattered, and I think our parents, um, till this day, like our parents are going to Mexico, for
My grandma's
my
birthday.
grandma's birthday, which
Yeah.
is right now in May.
I'm going to.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, I won't be going. But yeah, so like even that, like we still make it a habit to go and visit, and then so I went a few years ago because it was a hard, it was hard when he passed. It was hard for all of us. Um, and I remember like driving into the Plátano, and I'm like, oh man, like I have to go, like dreading it,
Mm-hmm.
and then showing up, and I'm just like, oh man, like expecting my grandpa to be there, like for like a few minutes, I forgot, he
Mm-hmm.
had passed, and I'm like, oh, my grandpa's gonna be here, I'm gonna go see him.
Mm-hmm.
So I park up, and I'm like, let's go, and then I'm like, because he used to sit at the very end of his house, and pretty much the driveway, and smoke a cigarette, and then,
Mm-hmm.
or he'd be in
He
the
had
kitchen.
he had a little log
He had a
he'd
little
sit
log,
on.
yeah.
He had a log.
Um,
I remember that.
sit there and smoke cigarettes, and then so he'd sit there and wait for you, or he would see a car, or he'd recognize it. Like, who's that? You know. Um, he was his own security guard. And yeah, like he'd sit there and wait for you, or you let him know, or he would call you and be like, "When are you coming? Are you gonna come? Are you guys gonna come?
Yeah.
I'll wait for you guys." I'm like, "All right, bet." Or like before he passed too. The last time I went to go visit him. I asked him, I'm like, "Hey, like, are you eating right now? Or are you not eating?" He's like, "Yeah, I'm kind of eating," because he wasn't eating at the time. But
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna take you some cookies, man. I'm gonna take you some food, so you better eat with me. He said, "All right, if you bring me some like cigarettes, I'll definitely eat with you." I'm like, all right, bro. No, but we would sit down, eat cookies and stuff, eat food. He was always ready to share a meal with you for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's one of the things that we all remember with him. But no, I've spoken a lot. So Francisco, anything you want to share about our grandpa? One of the cool things or just memories that you have?
I mean, my memory as it is very, very bad, and I think people will attest to that. My memory is so bad. Um, but no, I mean, I just remember very, very distinct pieces of my childhood, and I don't think they were really with him. They're more with my dad, but I know my grandpa would be there.
Yeah.
Back at the ranch in San Pascual, the one that they own. I don't remember actually. I don't have memories at the ranch where they used to work at.
Oh, okay.
The big one.
Yeah.
I don't have any memories of that actually.
Yeah.
So I can't tell you about anything about that time, but I mean just going to Mexico. I remember that him always being there. But again, I was one of the younger ones. I feel like of that era, of that generation.
Yeah.
Because we are like our generation of cousins is like, what is it, 6 of us, maybe 7. So it's you, your sister.
Yeah.
Then it's Ellie, Jose, or Jose, Ellie, Javier.
Yep.
My sister and I. And then that's kind of our generation.
Yeah.
Meaning like the generation, the era of cousins that grew up together.
Yeah.
That's what, 9?
I'm terrible at math. My kid's gonna
So
yell at me.
3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7.
Yeah,
That's 7 cousins that are kind of, I guess you would say, in this era, in this generation.
yeah,
At least, and I'm meaning like that are on this side of the border, in the
yeah,
United States, because
exactly.
we have cousins
Because
and
then we have
uncles and aunts that stayed in Mexico, and cousins that are kind of similar to our age back in Mexico, but you know,
yeah, they're mixed, and that's what I was referencing earlier. That on this side of the border, it's us, and then but in Mexico, it's my tia Sara's kids, so it's gonna be Alejandro, Cire, Felipe, and then my tia Beatrice's kids,
oh, and then you have Elise.
and then you have Liz. But
And
Liz is your age, younger than
oh, we're
you.
talking about the
Yeah,
older
yeah,
generations, yes.
yeah, yeah. And then you have my tio Beto's first kids,
Monse,
Monte, and
Alex,
I can't remember his name right now. I'm blanking on it.
Alejandro, maybe. I
And
feel like I want to say.
then we have Eduardo,
Hmm.
another one of my tia Beatrice's kids.
And what the two brothers?
Yeah, my tio Beto's other two.
No. Beatrices.
Oh my god, I just when I
Juan y
went to
Daniel.
Mexico, Juan,
Y Daniel, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So they're
And
yeah,
they're in their mid 30s maybe right now.
yeah. We're very close in age, which
Yeah.
is funny. Which I don't remember them being that young, but they always seemed older to me. But I guess we were like only like 6 months to a year apart, which
But
is
you know why they always feel like they're older? It's because you mature faster in Mexico.
yeah,
Yeah,
I think
you
so.
mature quick in Mexico
Yeah,
because you're not. It's not like, how do I say it? And I don't mean this in a bad way, but like you're surviving out there. It's harder to
yeah.
live
So
economically
yeah,
and
socioeconomically,
socially, and yeah,
yeah. You're
over
just
here we do have an advantage.
yeah. You do have that a little bit more. You get to grow up a little bit more, and I think that's too because that goes back to our parents. They left their home and they didn't have a childhood.
Hmm.
My mom got here pretty young, so my dad got here. He was I think he said he was 12 or 13 when he
Wow,
left home. Yeah, he was little. He was a little kid. Yeah,
I
just
think my dad was 17 or something, 18 or 17. My dad when he got
I
here.
yeah, some of them he left a lot younger because he wanted to come hang out with my dad.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's one of the things. 'Cause my dad and our grandpa super close.
Mm-hmm.
They were inseparable. It was pretty
Mm-hmm.
annoying at some point. It was awesome for him though. No, annoying in the sense that they're always on the phone. It was pretty cool, and it was really beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
To be honest, for them to have that relationship, and for me as well, because then my dad was also sharing his dad with his siblings, with everyone back in Mexico. We all shared him. Um, but yeah, no, it's pretty cool. But yeah, back to what I was going. They didn't have that childhood, so I think they try to give us that childhood
Yeah.
that they never had. Go to school. Hey, you gotta make sure you go to school.
Right.
Not as annoying as it sounds. Like 12-year-old Kiko trying to go to school, middle school. Like, hey, I don't want to go.
Yeah, man, I was so bad at school. I was
Um,
trying to do homework.
yeah, oh, and I think our grandpa was very proud. And I remember like another core memory is I was doing college work. I was doing some sort of paper. 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, and I'm just like sitting there like plugging away at some like theology class I was taking. It's something I always brought up to the family, and he was very religious. He
Hmm.
was he was very Catholic, and but it didn't change him. He wasn't like one of these people who will like force you to be or like just start talking to you about his religion and stuff like that.
Right.
He was more of a let me educate you and you can make up your own decision about what
Hmm.
you want to do. But not only for Catholicism, but like for other religions, and for like Judaism, for like um, Hinduism. And I was at the time, I think this is like maybe 10 years ago, and I was still like living at home with my parents, and I was taking this class about like religions and stuff, and I was explaining to him like Buddhism, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I've heard something about that," like, and I was writing a paper on that, and and he was telling me, he's like, "Oh," he's like, I have, and we're talking about, Middle Eastern religions and stuff like that. And he's like, oh, I have a Quran. And I'm like, oh,
Hmm.
really? And I'm like, yeah. Like, I read other religions so I can understand my religion better, which was like an interesting take.
Wow,
Yeah, and I was just like,
I didn't know that.
you are 70 years old, and I'm just learning this about you.
Right.
Like that is cool.
He
And
was
I'm just,
always open to learning.
yeah, he was always open to learning, which is awesome. And then and then like I take a science class or something like or a biology class, and I was like talking about like plant cells and stuff. And he to him this was like something he learned years ago. He's
Hmm.
like, oh no, yeah, I know about plant cells. Like this is why you can like put this tree and this tree together,
Manipulate. Yeah, yeah.
and then it's like DNA manipulation to how to grow this tree better and stronger. And I'm
Right.
just like sitting here like, you are 70 years old, and I'm getting schooled, literally,
Yeah.
and you're laying in bed right now, like in your undies, like just chilling, And he's just like, yeah, oh, it's like 4 o'clock, right? It's 4:30. He like bust out his watch. Yeah, you want to make some coffee? I'm like, man, this man is his coffee, dude. Like all the time. And then I was like, hey, let's you know what? I need a break. Like I need to go to school anyways. I need to get ready. But yeah, like he was always, um,
One thing I want to say is like, and then the core memory that just hit right now. One thing that I remember, and this goes hand in hand with like I think his religion and his beliefs, but and him being humble. But he would always be so giving.
mm,
Like
yes,
yeah,
yeah,
he'd be very like giving to other people because I remember sometimes when we'd be in the car, when we would visit Mexico and we would drive down from Pinan, from that big
oh
high
yeah,
elevation
yeah,
village down to where our family lives.
yeah,
Um, we'd pass a lot of families and we'd pass a lot of like how would I say it, like
people walking,
people walking.
yeah,
He'd always offer a ride in the
yep,
truck, in the back, in the
yep,
cab.
yep,
And then people would always be like, "Oh, how much do I owe you? How much do I owe you for
yeah,
giving me a
yeah,
ride?" And he'd be like, "Never, nothing." And that's I think that's just the hospitality of like the Mexican culture,
yeah,
and but also of like his beliefs and just how humble he always was.
yeah,
And we'd also pass by like families that were less fortunate. So,
yeah, drop
and,
off,
and I
the
remember, man,
drop off, yep,
yeah, like I remember when we would pass by the store in the city or in the village, he'd always buy like
he,
extra cookies,
yeah, I know,
extra
yep.
stuff, extra candy, and
And he'd
we'd
be like,
pass by.
and it's crazy how he would remember. He's like, oh, I went to their house and they didn't have this.
Hmm.
Let me just grab some real quick.
Yeah,
And then it's just like, yeah, they no tenían café o no tenían frijol,
oh, galletas,
galletas, las
yeah,
galletas.
cookies. It was always a thing.
It's always, yeah, that was always his thing too. Yeah,
Yeah, you'd
we
buy
go,
a big box of cookies
yep.
for families.
Did you ever go to Tecate with him to
Um,
go buy his cookies that he'd like to
no,
buy?
I don't think so.
No.
No, at least not
Did
that I
you ever see
remember.
the sorted cookies, the surtido from Gamesa?
Yeah, the lip boxes, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
bro, I remember going, and he'd be like, "I just grab like five." And I'm like,
yeah.
"Yeah, bro, what are you feeding?" He's like, "This is for me." I thought they were for us.
Yeah, no, they love cookies in our family.
Yeah,
Cookies and coffee.
cookies, pan. We go ham, and then
But I have this core memory because and I don't want to. I mean, even if I know the name or don't know the name, I can't remember the name right now. So, but there was a family making a turn. There was a family that
mm,
was that had a lot of kids. When you would drive down that little turn,
yes,
there was kids always coming out.
yep,
You know where I'm talking
yeah,
about?
I know what you're talking about.
So there was always kids popping up left and right, and
But
and it's funny because they already knew our family. Our
yeah,
family is known there because it's
yeah,
a small village, but also because like we're one of the only families that had a vehicle, had a
yeah,
truck, and
we
that
were
was able to go up and down,
we were more
buy
fortunate.
groceries and stuff. Yeah, but my grandpa would always and buy cookies, and the kids would come out, and he'd always just come out of the car, talk to the kids, give them cookies,
Yep,
give the family, a little,
little son.
little something. Yeah, and so that's one core memory that I do remember about my grandpa is always being so giving.
Yeah, yeah,
And I
yeah,
want
yeah.
to know. There's another
And
word
this
for
is
that,
this
but
is and this is funny. This is funny because you bring that up, and then this is how everyone used to call him Tio, or he was my Tio. when we had like fake relatives
Yeah.
who weren't even our relatives, but they were like they would call him Theo and be like, "Oh, yeah, that's my aunt," and then my mom would be like, "That's not your aunt." I'm like, "Oh, my bad."
Yeah.
Like, but he calls my
People would adopt my people would adopt our grandpa as their grandpa or
as
as
their
their
grandpa, as their
uncle.
uncle.
Yeah.
It was
And I'd be like, the hell, we don't know that kid.
we- he's not really related. Yeah, no, and it's pretty cool. And yeah, speaking about traveling in the back of the truck, and that's how people know me in Pinal and El Plátano. Also, we were going to Pinal because we were going back home. We were going back home to Querétaro, and I'm in the back, and I'm in the back with one of our grandpa's friends. His name is Joaquin. They know him as Murrieta,
Hmm.
and dude's an OG,
Yeah.
like
Yeah. Dude's an OG in the family.
OG,
Family friend.
OG family friend. Dude had rocking a mullet,
Hmm.
like open
Tip
t-shirt,
Open
open
t-shirt. It
t-shirt.
had a little suntan in the chest with a
Yeah.
little like cigarette smell and cigarette voice, smoker's voice.
Yeah. He loved to BS. He has a story for everything,
Yeah, that guy's a legend.
That guy's legend. Um but he was also one of my grandpa's like best friends. Like they
Hmm.
really really got along really well. And it's funny enough because they met through work, and but he ended up living pretty close to us, a few towns over. And I'm in the back because I wanted to go with him. Dude's waving his mullet in the back, and I'm just like, that's cool. I had very short hair. I wasn't allowed to have long hair, so the buzz cut. And we go. We're like maybe like 20 minutes away from leaving the rancho, and we're there, right? I get smacked in the face by some freaking tree branch or whatever. Next thing you know, I'm like fighting some bee, some
You're
red
leaving the
wasp
rancho to go where?
to go to Pinal. Or
Okay.
yeah,
You're
'cause we're
going up the
we're
hill.
going up. We're
Yeah.
going up, and because we're gonna go from Pinal, we're gonna go back to Querétaro,
Hmm.
and we're in my grandpa's old truck. I'm talking like a F-250 with just a single cab with an open. It's like one of those like now like landscaper trucks,
Hmm.
old beat up truck, and that thing was like a family legend too in the family. And so I'm in the back. That's where I wanted to be, kicking it with everyone. And there's a bunch of families back there because he had picked them all up,
Hmm.
and he told them, "Hey, I'm gonna leave. Y'all better be here because I'm gonna leave. I'm not going down. I'm going up." So we had like I don't know how many people were back there, and I get bit by this wasp. I get smacked right in the eye. And I started swelling. I started breaking out in hives, and this is my first time in Mexico, so I'm getting messed up right now.
How old
And
are you?
I was like 4 or 5 years old.
Wow.
This is the first time. This is the time my mom left me,
Uh,
and this
you
there
get your
was
first. You get your real Mexican experience with
oh
all the bug bites and
yeah.
wasp and
Yeah. So I had already been there for like
injuries.
2 months and a half or something, and we were getting ready because this is the trip where I was, my parents let me go, and I was already getting ready to go back. So this is us leaving El Rancho to go back to Querétaro so we could fly out in like a
Oh,
week or so.
yeah.
And I started having allergic reaction, and all of a sudden, like I started breaking out in hives my whole back. And Mexicans being Mexicans, they're like, we have a caja de limones from some lady who was gonna go sell her
Oh.
limones. So Joaquin starts like bust out his navaja, starts cutting them up, starts squeezing them on my back, start rubbing them, and I'm like, I don't know, man, I don't think this is working because it's burning. He's like, it's burning because it's working, and I was like, okay. I ended up passing out. I guess I was allergic to bees. I'm still allergic to bees.
Is that your first time finding
First
out?
time experience. No, according to my mom, it was my second time.
Mm.
But the first time it happened, I didn't have such allergic reaction to it. First time
You were really young. I'm
I
assuming
was
your
really
immune
young, and
system fought it off.
yeah, and so I didn't remember it. And so we ended up in Pinal, and then my grandma, being my grandma, she has this picture of me, man, of like Elephant Man, whole face is swollen. I'm standing on the side of the road.
She said, "Mijo, let me take a picture of
She
you."
said, "Let me take a picture of you with my new camera."
You're all fucking.
Now I'm like
bit
sitting
up.
there, literally. I'm like, wow, this woman.
You're like, Grandma, I'm dead. I'm dying
I'm
here.
dying right now.
That's so funny you bring that up because I remember one time I was with you in the ranch in San Pasqual. Do you know where I'm going with this?
No, what happened?
No? One time I was with you here in San Pasqual in
Okay.
the ranch, and we were hanging out. We were doing something, but I got bit by a wasp,
Yeah.
and I was like, not freaking out, but I was just like, like, we're in the ranch, we're in San Pasqual right now. We got to
Yeah,
go to Escondido. What's gonna happen to me? And I remember you getting a lemon
yeah.
and cutting it, and then you cut a lemon, and then you're like, "Where did it bite you?" I'm like, "In my neck, on my back." And then
Yeah.
you're like, "All right, watch out." And you just cut the lemon in half, and you put it on my back, and I was like, "Oh, that thing stung." I remember stinging, but it worked. It worked. The citric acid, whatever,
Yeah.
like it kills whatever poison or.
That's funny.
But that's crazy that you brought that because that's one of the core memories I have with
That's
you.
wild.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it works. So if anyone out there listening ever gets stung by a bee or a wasp and you're around lemons but you're not around any medicine, just cut a lemon and
Yeah.
put it on the bite, on the
We're
sting.
all our cousins and siblings or tias listening to this confirmation on this confirmation,
Right.
Yeah. No, yeah, I know a lot of lore in our family. Yeah, no, but going back to where we come from, it's we're from to kind of wrap this up, my family and Kiko's family, because your parents are from your mom. She's from the area too, right?
My mom, yeah. So my mom is from the area, and I didn't get much information about my mom either. But uh, going back to all right, let me go trace back. So my mom compared to my dad
Mm,
comes from a less like it comes from a impoverished, however you say it,
that's
family.
fortunate. Yeah.
Yeah, less fortunate family, a little bit more, social economically um struggle compared to my dad. I never got to meet my grandpa from my mom's side.
Okay.
Um, Unfortunately, he died
Hmm.
or was killed.
Mm.
Um, it's one of those things where like he died, but it was kind of like a supposedly accident, but
One of
supposedly
those mystery deaths.
yeah, mystery deaths. Um, so rest in peace. But I didn't get to meet him. I did get to meet my grandma from my mom's side, my mom's mom. Um,
Hmm.
and I remember like one of the first times ever visiting my mom's family, walking from the grandpa's house from my dad's side, and it's a pretty big house. Walking to my mom's family, which is maybe like a 15-minute walk.
Okay.
Um, but I remember going into their house, and it was one of those like how do I say, like wooden stick homes, you know?
Yeah, yeah, no,
Yeah,
yeah.
it
It's a
was.
culture shock, huh?
Yeah, and it was just like, where's
Where's
the toilet? Where's
where's
the
the rest of
bed?
the
Yeah,
house?
where's the wall?
Yeah.
Um, but they were very humble as well. So my grandma had been living alone for a long time, like
Oh wow.
without a husband.
Yeah.
But she was living with my half brother, my brother
Hmm.
Christian.
Yeah.
Um, so my family, and just to kind of give you a bit of context, my mom and my dad had two, my sister and I,
Yeah.
Adriana Aide Aguilar, and me, Francisco Javier Aguilar. But my mom
You
before,
gotta hit him with the nicknames though.
right,
Yeah. So
like
okay.
Kiko
So
and
so it's
Lala,
Kiko and Lala, or los AKA los Kikos, which my grandpa uh
gave us that
gave
nickname.
us nicknames. So we all have nicknames
Mm-hmm.
that stem from our grandpa giving us nicknames.
Los Kikos, I love that.
Los Kikos,
Yeah,
bro.
it
That
should
that
not
was
definitely not los Lalas.
los definitely not los Lalas, but you were los Kikos.
Yeah.
Um.
And what about you guys? Los
So
juniors?
no. So yo era Tito. To him, I was
Mm-hmm. You
Tito.
were. I remember that.
Yeah, I was Tito or El Niño. Um, and then my sister Vanessa was Bane, and then Sandy was Sandy,
Mm-hmm.
of course. But yeah, no. Go back to you. We'll full circle on the
No,
nicknames.
yeah.
Yeah.
So it was two of us for my mom and my dad, but my mom had a son before she got with my dad, and they got together. And he is 3 years older than us. He is 30 right now. I am 27. My sister's 28. Um, so I remember going to visit my grandma and my mom's side of the family, and just having that culture shock. I was just like, oh. I didn't know that this is how, you know, they were living. But my grandma was living with my brother at that time because he was born and raised over there.
Hmm.
He was raised over there, you know, his whole childhood. And so I remember one of the first times meeting my brother. I was just like, we look nothing alike. But yeah, it was one of those situations where like, okay, well, we'll try, you know, we'll get along. Um, but yeah, so he or she, my grandma was already pretty old from when I remember meeting her. So you know, it was very hard to communicate with her, especially me being young. You know, I didn't really know how to conversate with an adult. You know,
Hmm.
I was just playing and stuff. But but yeah, so my brother has a lot of information about that, which you know I'll share with everyone later on. Hopefully, I can get him on the podcast
Yeah.
and share his story because I'd love that to you know share some of that story with my grandma. But yeah, so my mom was from that area as well, but they actually migrated from another village
Mm.
across on the other side of the hill,
Mm.
which is I think called Ipazotes.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so that's where my mom has family over there, and I believe that they migrated there. But it's
Hmm.
one of those other stories too, where I believe families were looking for a water source and you know rich natural resources and stuff,
Yeah.
and so they just ended up migrating there and setting up and starting a family there. But yeah, my mom and my dad met each other. They knew about each other. I think they had dated back when they were in Mexico at a very young age. I want to say about like 15, 16 years old.
Hmm.
And then my dad came to Mexico, or sorry, to the United States with my grandpa, as we stated earlier in the
Hmm.
podcast. And then mom ended up coming to the United States as well. I forgot what brought her here, but she ended up reconnecting with my dad here, and then you know that started their journey, and
And your
that's
and your family.
in my family, yeah, and that's where we are now. But
Yeah.
but yeah,
Yeah.
that's a little bit of backstory about. Unfortunately, again, I don't have much information about that, but
Yeah, and
I'll
that's
get try and
and
get
you
my
know
brother on
that's
here.
one thing too that we come from this small town, so it's hard for us to find this information other than what we
Already know,
yeah
which
our
is
verbal history.
right,
Unfortunately, there's really not a whole lot there, and that's kind of why Francisco wanted to start this whole podcast
exactly.
because we have to piece together our history. It's a great place to relive and bring up our core memories and the lore of the family, of course, because we spoke about this beforehand, and how um, I'm more of the one that got to spend a lot of time with him, with our grandpa. But at the same time, there's other younger cousins. So we have like you know, we're gonna we're gonna put them out here. We have Anai, and Chavita, aka Salvador, um, who didn't get to experience, living growing up with our grandpa, and then so I'm always, we're always having to share,
Stories,
stories and
yeah.
stuff like that, and how this happened, how it came to be, and and they always they speak of him too. He's like, oh wow, I would have loved to have met him when he was younger. Like I met him as my grandpa when he was like sick and stuff, and
Hmm.
we didn't get to experience what you guys experienced. Like, yeah, I know, but like your parents, didn't get together till way after, so you guys are, like
Right.
10, 15 years younger than us. So it's a lot different. So yeah, and at the same time, we had different upbringings. También, we had very similar upbringings to our parents, and
And
but
the cousins had different upbringing. Yeah, I mean,
yeah, we all
us,
have different.
the kids compared to the parents definitely have different upbringings because we're fortunate to have been born and raised here in the United States. But
Hmm.
even the cousins, I mean,
Yeah,
they could be similar in the generation that we're in. With like
yeah,
us seven, but when we're talking about Anaí,
Chavita,
Chavita, Jocelyn,
yeah, The triplets.
Enrique, yeah, the triplets.
We
Those
had
are
triplets in
all
the family, which
these
is
these
wild.
these are the yeah, I know, right? These kids are younger. These kids are about like 22 and younger, 22 to
Yeah,
17 years old right
yeah. The
now.
triplets just
15,
turned
16.
16. Just
Yeah,
turned 16 last
and that's
month.
a different generation.
Yeah, it's a whole different mix of them.
Yeah, and those kind of were raised together
Yeah.
ish. But
Yep.
again, they would like
Yep.
everyone's raised differently, different generations. Now you have tablets and all that. That
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
obviously kids and
Yeah,
video
my
games.
kid, my kid Vicente. So it's like, um, he starts off the new generation,
I think so, right?
the new
Yeah.
mix. 'Cause he's the oldest one. So I had my kid. Well, I didn't have him, of course, but yeah. So it's Vicente, and then now it's Jose Luis's kids, because
Yeah.
they have two of them, and then it's your sister, and then it's Javi,
Mhm.
and then it's Ellie,
Yep.
and then so it's like I feel like I'm my tia Emma, like 30 years ago, because she had Jose Luis, and then he was the oldest one of our mix,
Yeah.
and then because he was always like 4 or 5 years older than us,
Yeah.
which literally, and then now it's Vicente, and I'm like, wow, like it comes full circle.
So thank you, Junior. Credit to you. You started a new generation. You're keeping this lineage alive.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
The last name Aguilar.
Aguilar.
But
Yeah, no,
but yeah, that's a totally different generation now that you
yeah,
think about it. I mean, they're cousins. We were all cousins, but now these are cousins, kids or
yeah,
children's.
yeah, 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 yeah.
And luckily, I think they're all gonna be growing up and
Yeah,
close to each
they
other.
have been already. I
Yeah.
think. Oh yeah, I go visit Eric and Ellie all the time, and then my kid loves going over there because he loves trying to go have fun with the baby. But the
Yeah.
baby's literally a
A
baby.
baby.
Yeah, he's like 6 months old at this point, and I'm like, he doesn't do much. He's like,
Right.
no, he does. He smiles. And I'm like, okay, cool. Like, have fun with that, And but yeah, he likes going over to their house and stuff like that. So it's pretty cool, seeing them grow up, and then um yeah, Vicente would be the only one that actually got to meet my grandpa
Mhm.
out of the children, which is to me that's like,
Yeah.
whoa,
That's actually
that's
nice. That's a good.
that's a flex, but
Yeah, it's low key a flex.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'm like, all right,
That's low key a flex.
yeah, 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 which is pretty cool, and
Because he
that
remembered
was a
him
whole,
and he loved him.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Vicente.
He liked Vicente a lot.
Mhm. He'd ask for him.
He liked the name, which was pretty cool because
Mhm.
I asked him one time, and this is how I kind of started gathering information on the whole family. And I asked him one time, like, "Hey, I know you had a Pedro, which is his grandpa," and I go, "But have we ever had a Vicente?" I told him we were gonna have a kid. And he's like, "No, no." I was like, "Ooh, how does Vicente Aguilar sound as a name?" He's like, "Oh, that's a cool name." And I go, "Yeah, yeah. Well, congrats. You can add another bisnieto to your list." And he's all like, "I have my list right here." Like, well, hey, God willingly, you're gonna have another one. Come February. So hey, you better get ready because you better come and hang out.
Yeah.
And he was old at that time. He was very sick. So he's like, okay, if I'm good, I'll go visit you guys.
Yeah.
And well, he came to visit him, and we went to go see him as well, and yeah, that was fun. And he was here. My grandpa was here for his first birthday, so he got to celebrate the first birthday, and I took a bunch of photos, and of course, I kind of knew what was gonna happen.
Right.
That was kind of looming over us because he wasn't getting any better till the end of his life. He struggled a bit. He had unfortunately, he passed, and as we mentioned, but he had like a really bad fall, really really bad fall.
Yeah. Let's get into sharing how he passed.
Yeah, so
Because that way our family gets to know how
yeah,
our
so
grandpa passed.
he had like a really bad fall. He broke um his leg,
Hip.
hipish area,
Mhm.
and so that happened. He got that all sorted out, but during this whole time, you know, he was still deteriorating. He was like he was staying at my house at one point, and he's like using the restroom, and he's like passing out all the time. He's like fainting and stuff like that. So we're like, ooh, that's not good. And our family being our family, they're like, well, let's take him to Tijuana. Let's go get him checked out. When you want to go to the doctors here. because it's too expensive. And you know, now now knowing what I know, and I'm like, oh, you should have gone to doctors here. We probably gotta sorted something out. And so he's passing out, and they're just like, hey, he's just lacking vitamins. He's not feeling too hot. Okay, cool, whatever. So he goes on his regiment. He gets better, physically and emotionally. He's doing a lot better. He feels good. He feels strong, and he gets better. He goes back to Mexico, and he goes back to Mexico, and he starts getting bad again. He gets sick again. So he's doing his cycle where he's coming back.
And for
Get
context, how old is he at this point? Is he late 70s?
Yeah, I think so. Because he was
78, 79?
yeah. Because he passed in his 80s, I believe.
83. I
Yeah.
think.
So he's still, this is maybe like 5-7 years ago. No,
Mhm.
more like 10 years ago. But he's still like getting better, getting sick. And so he has his bad fall, right? And he ends up using a walker and stuff like that. He ends up having to use a cane at some point. He's getting better. He's getting better. And, you know, um, but then we start finding out, hey, you know what? Like something's going on with him. He's not getting better. Like he's just not eating anymore. He's not getting better. But he's complaining that he's getting giant headaches. So he's like on some heavy medication. They can't figure out what's going on. So at the very, very end of his life, they find out he has a tumor
Mhm.
in his head from the fall.
Mm.
And that's what essentially was hurting him because one, he wasn't getting hungry. He was just like feeling constant pain. Well, of course, the tumor's growing inside of his head,
Mhm.
in between like his ear and in that area, and his brain, because of this fall he had, his really really bad fall he had in the shower. Of course, like our shower in the rancho is it's concrete.
Yeah.
You're smacking that thing,
Yeah.
you're hurting yourself. So, he's like losing bowel movement and stuff like that, and whatnot. So that's happening. I'm just like, man, it's really happening, and it was sad to experience that stuff with him and whatnot. So that's how he ended up passing. Um, his mom his mom ended up passing as well. She's just Jewish, is old,
Yeah, she was 90 something.
She was older,
Our
yeah.
great grandma was 90
She
something when she
passed in
passed.
2012, 2011, something like that. She passed right around the same time my mom's mom passed. Pueblito passed. She had cancer a few times, and the third time she
Mhm.
just couldn't beat it anymore. She went through a few chemo stuff and then surgeries, and then at the end it just got to her. The stomach cancer just stopped. She wasn't eating, and I was there for that too. We were doing chemo, and this whole time my grandpa was letting us use his house as a halfway house, pretty much, for her to get treatment and stuff like that. um and then same thing, my grandpa on my mom's side, same thing. He ended up getting sick, went through depression after my grandma Pueblito passed, and he just kind of passed in that sense too, because they really loved each other,
Mhm.
as much as the age difference too. There was a giant age difference too
Oh, there
between.
was.
Yeah, it was like 10-15 years
He
different.
was
No,
much older.
younger.
Oh, younger.
Yeah. So he was, I think it was a 15-year, something like that,
Mhm.
because he had just retired. He was 60 something.
Mm.
And my
He was pretty
grandma,
young.
my
He was
grandma
young.
was in her 70s, like well into her 70s,
Yeah.
80s maybe, when she passed. 'Cause she passed too.
And then he didn't pass. He didn't. It was not much long after when he passed.
He passed maybe 3 years after, and
Oh wow.
he was
And
just
he was 60 something.
yeah, he was 60. He was fairly young, and my mom, afterwards was like, oh, I think it was the depression that got to him because he really missed my mom. I go, well, yeah,
Mhm. No, that
they really
happens.
loved each other, and it just goes to show what type of relationship they had. Beautiful, beautiful relationship. Um, Sorry to skip around, but and then our abuelito Salva, or and this is a hot take on that one. No one really knows how he passed. They
It's
just
one of
gotta
those murder mysteries, right?
yeah,
Or
one of those mysterious deaths.
yeah, mysterious deaths.
So the
Well,
story,
what are the stories? I guess we can get into it.
the story that the official story from the investigation that was done. Okay, because
Air
there was an
quote unquote
investigation.
air quotes.
Air quotes. He fell. He fell. But the other story,
And where did he fall again?
he
Right by the school,
fell.
right?
He fell by somewhere.
right? Or is that my grandpa from my mom's side I'm thinking about?
I'm not sure
There's
where
a lot of falls back in the
there's a lot of
day. A
fall, a
lot
lot of
of
mysterious
mysterious
falling.
falls. Yeah.
Yeah. Another story, um, was that he had gone to our grandpa's house, okay, our Vuelto Genaro's house, and he was given money from his pension or money from my grandpa because he would give him money,
Mhm.
and so he went to go drink, and at this point, him and my abuelita Paula were not together anymore. They had
Mhm.
separated,
Mhm.
and so they were
And they were already in their older age too.
Yeah,
I'm
oh
assuming.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
70s.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. They had separated. That's why my abuelita Paula was always with my grandpa because they had
After.
separated. Yeah,
Yeah.
they had separated, and I do have a core memory with my abuelita Salva, but I think it's probably too graphic for the pod. Um, but they had he had gone over to pick up this money, and then he went out drinking.
Mhm.
He went out drinking, and then so they think that whoever saw him out drinking, he had this like
Money on him.
money on him in the morralito,
Mhm.
and it was a red one supposedly, and he had like something like money in it that he was being given by my grandpa, and he had gotten himself a jarrito de pulque, to take back home. So he went out drinking, whatever, and then he was on his way home, and they who speculation within the family is that he was killed for the money. He tripped, or he was tossed down,
Mhm.
and he stumbled to his death, unfortunately. And where El Plátano is at, it's not really the most flattest of places. It's
No.
pretty steep.
Yeah.
You rolling if you
Yeah.
yeah you
People die to this day.
people yeah,
Yeah.
people flip their cars all the
Flip their
time
cars,
there.
ATVs.
ATVs, razors. Most recent, there's a person who passed away in their Can-Am because he flipped it.
Mhm.
Um,
There's corners everywhere.
yeah, sharp turns everywhere. So imagine you're a little tipsy walking home, you trip on something.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're falling for you
Yeah.
know 100 feet, 50 feet.
Mysteriously.
Yeah, mysteriously. So there's speculation on that. Um, as far as our great grandparents, I don't know how they passed. Um, Yeah, I don't know anything on that. Our From our grandpa's side, from our dad's side, our paternal side, from Francisco and I, our grandma's still alive. She's still kicking. She can still. She
Yeah.
has.
To this day, it's March 23rd,
Yeah.
2025, and
She up
her
and living.
birthday's coming up.
Let's knock on wood. Nothing happened to her. Um,
She's gonna be 87 this year, I believe.
yeah, it's a long life.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's still up and kicking. She hangs out. She comes back. She comes back and forth now. She
Mhm.
visits. And she's a whole personality. She's a whole vibe.
Yeah.
She's a
She's
whole.
very nonchalant.
Yeah.
That's what I
She'll tell you.
love.
She'll tell you what's up.
Yeah. She's very nonchalant, very stoic lady. Seen a
Yeah.
lot of
She's a
things,
lot of things.
been
Done a lot of
through
things.
a lot of
Yeah,
things.
yeah.
Yeah. Very wise too, but also quiet.
She's very quiet. Yeah,
Yeah.
She's just sitting there sometimes.
She's not the type. She's not the type of grandma to. And I mean this with all love, but she's not the type of grandma to like cuddle you, to kind of like, you
Nah.
know, bring
Her.
you in and be like, "Oh, mijo,"
Yeah.
She'd be like, "Oh, you're here? Good,
Oh, nice.
nice."
Nice for you to come visit me.
Yeah.
It's been like 2 years. She'll tell you. She'll tell you. But like her way of showing love is when you go to her house and you took something, like you took cookies or something. She'll save that.
Mhm.
She probably has like she likes to hoard stuff too. But
Yeah.
you know, she'll save you cookies that you took 3 years ago, and she'll be
Yeah.
like, "Hey, you forgot to eat these. Can you eat them now?" And you'll be like, "These are
These are for the ones
expired."
you brought 3 years ago.
He's just like, "No, yeah, but you left them here, so
Yeah.
you got to eat them because I
You
don't
know
want to
what's
throw 'em away."
one core memory that just hit me right now of my grandma. Mostly my grandma. My grandpa was there too, but um, back in the early 2010s, we went to go visit Mexico, and
Hmm.
I would take dollars, cash.
Okay.
And sometimes, when you go to Mexico, you're supposed to change the dollars
Yeah.
to pesos. And I remember I did have pesos that I had changed, or dollars I had changed into pesos, but I had also taken extra money that if I were to run out, I was going to exchange it in Mexico, but in the city.
Oh, okay, okay.
So in this period of time, we were in the rancho, we're in the ranch in the mountains, and I wanted to buy chips or something. I wanted to go to the little like little store in someone's house
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and buy snacks, but I had ran out of pesos, and I had like $20 in cash, and my dad's all like, "Oh, why don't you ask your grandma to change the money for you?" And I was like, "What do you mean?" She's like, "Yeah, she'll change the money for you." And I remember like going up to my
She the
grandma like,
bank.
I'm like, "Grandma, can you change this money for pesos for me?" And she's like, "Yeah, yeah, come inside the room." I remember back in the day, we go into the room, and this is a room that my grandma and my grandpa slept
Yeah,
in, and I go in there and I give her my $20, and she's like, she takes out I think it was underneath their bed
yeah.
or somewhere in their like closet,
Mm.
a shoebox filled with money, like
Yeah,
cash
yeah, yeah,
money.
yeah. She's the
And
bank.
yeah, and it was like, I'm sure thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
And she just, gave me the cash or the pesos and cash, and then she's like, okay, exchange of money. I was like, my grandma's a bank, but I remember at that point I was thinking, I was like, dang, my grandparents are rich.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
But yeah, 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 that's one of the core memories I have of
yeah.
my grandparents, and it was nice.
Yeah. No, you definitely.
Yeah,
Um,
they'd keep money, cash money
they
under their
just keep
bed.
money around like
Yeah,
they were prepping for the Revolutionary War all over
right.
again.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's they're a whole vibe. Especially when they were together too. Like
Mhm.
he'd be like, Trini,
Yeah. Un café.
hey, café, ¿dónde mis galletas?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, they're amazing to be around with. My grandma's still pretty cool. Of course she misses her, her partner and stuff. And
Right.
then yeah, she's not one to talk a whole lot about him anymore.
Mm.
I think she's still mourning. We all are. We're all
Mhm.
different stages and stuff. We all mourn at different levels, different speeds. So yeah, even today, I think about my grandpa all the time and what he used to do and what he used to say. Um, so yeah, I think this is for the younger siblings, for those who didn't get to experience him in life. I hope this brought you a little closer, and me personally, it definitely helps with closure that he's no longer with us. But I got to. I'm very fortunate. I got to experience a lot of life with him, and of course, there's a lot of stuff that we could sit here and talk for
Right.
hours.
And we've already talked for 2 hours, and we don't want to keep everyone up for 2 hours. But yeah, like Rudy mentioned, this is for our cousins, our family, our children
Yeah,
to look back to and listen to this podcast and kind of revisit that history, unlock those memories that we've built and that we shared. Um, and we just want to share with everyone and anyone too that that's our friend, that's our colleague, that's interested in knowing a little bit more about us, about our background. I
yeah,
think it's pretty cool. You guys get to know a little bit more about us on a personal level, and if you guys ever get a chance to you know visit Mexico,
Y-
visit Querétaro, you guys want to come check out this beautiful place where our family's from, more than welcome to hit me up or hit up Rudy and come out with us, and we'd love to share. I'm very proud of where our family's from, and
definitely.
I know Rudy can second that.
Yeah, no,
It's a beautiful place. So
beautiful town, beautiful, great food.
hmm
You know, but yeah, no, we welcome you to share your story with us as well. I'm sure this goes out to for the people, but I know Francisco would be looking for more people to
definitely.
guest spot, and he'll bring you on the pod, and you guys can share your story, your family history, and we can all share our upbringing, and you can share your family history. Way to record, um, forever, because of course once it goes on the internet, it's out there forever. So
Yeah,
yeah, that's lucky for us. We live in this generation where we can do that now, and we can save this and add on to it. And I'm sure we'll be adding to this series where we get to explore more of our family culture, more of our family history. Francisco mentioned that he'd want to have more of our family on here, so this is pretty exciting for us. So Hey,
Yep.
maybe when you go to Mexico, you can interview
I'm
someone.
gonna interview my grandma, hopefully.
Hey,
Yeah.
that'd be
I'm
fire.
going to Mexico in a
Or
couple
one of the
months.
siblings too, or like one of the cousins.
Yeah,
Maybe Cide. Cide would be a good
that'd be
one.
cool. Yeah.
Yeah,
Hopefully I see her.
yeah, I'm sure.
Be dope.
So there's some of the older siblings who have inspired us to go to school. They're one of the first ones to go to school, to
Mhm.
go to college. College and higher education, I guess.
Yeah.
You know,
And you think like if they can do it, we can do it. We should be able to do
we
it.
should be able to do it. Yeah,
Yeah.
we forget Mexico standard of education a little higher than the United States probably.
Right.
It's a little harder, but no, they have amazing stuff. They do amazing work. So
But again, thank you guys for listening. I know this was a long podcast, but I appreciate everyone that is listening right now, even if it's just 2 listeners. I appreciate you, and thank you, Rudy, for coming on and
of course,
sharing your part of our family. You know what you know, and your family from your mom's side. It's very very nice, and thank you for coming on this podcast and accepting this
no,
and
awesome.
sharing it,
Thank you for
man.
having me.
No, of course. Thank you. Guys, this is Lineage Legacy Podcast. Again, this is Francisco Aguilar and Rudy tonight. We'll see you guys on the next. Thank you.